No one saw much of Christine after her brilliant performance at the opera. She turned down a number of invitations to sing at concerts and refused to perform at the opera house. The Count had given up hope of ever seeing Christine again, until one morning he received a letter from her.
Raoul, I have not forgotten you, the little boy who went into the sea to rescue my scarf. I am writing to let you know that tomorrow is the anniversary of my father's death, and I am going to Perros to pay my respects. Meet me at the inn tomorrow evening. There's something I need to tell you.
Wasting no time, Raoul packed a small bag and made his way to the railway station. He took the train to Perros and spent most of the journey thinking about the wonderful summer he had spent with Christine in Perros years before. Few people knew the story of Christine's unusual childhood. She came from a very poor family. Her mother died when she was just 6 years old, and she spent most of her childhood performing with her father at country fairs. Christine's father played the violin, and she sang. One day the pair caught the attention of a wealthy professor of music. Professor Valerius brought Christine and her father to Paris and paid for Christine's training. Madame Valerius, the professor's wife, took care of Christine and raised her as if she were her own daughter. Christine and her father sometimes left Paris and traveled through the French countryside, performing at various towns along the way. One sunny afternoon in the small town of Perros, a little boy was out with his governess when he heard Christine singing. He followed her as she walked with her father to the beach. It was very windy, and the wind blew Christine's red scarf out to sea. The little boy ran into the water and caught the scarf. Christine was grateful, and she thanked him with a kiss on the cheek. The little boy was, of course, Raoul, the Count of Chagny, who was staying with his aunt in a nearby village. During that summer, Raoul and Christine played together almost every day. In the evenings they sat outside and listened to Christine's father tell them stories about kings and queens and faraway places. But their favorite stories were about the angel of music. Christine's father told the children that the angel of music visits great musicians and singers and inspires them to sing or play their instruments like no one else on earth.
Has the angel ever visited you, Daddy?
Christine asked one day. Her father shook his head.
No,
He said sadly.
but one day you will hear him. When I am in heaven, I will send him to you.
3 years later, Christine and Raoul met once again in Perros, and that was the last time they saw each other. Christine continued her training in Paris, but when her father died, her passion for singing disappeared. Years later, Raoul saw Christine perform in a number of minor roles at the opera. He loved watching her on stage because she was so beautiful and graceful. He wanted to talk to her, but he was afraid that she wouldn't remember him. The night she played Margarita, Raoul realized that he was in love with Christine, and he decided to approach her. But why had she pretended not to recognize him? And who was the man whose voice he had heard in her dressing room? Raoul arrived in Perros and made his way to the small inn. Christine was waiting in the lounge.
I knew you'd come.
She said.
Of course,
Said Raoul.
Christine, I love you, and I cannot live without you.
Christine blushed.
Don't be silly, Raoul.
She said.
I'm being serious.
Said Raoul.
Tell me, Christine, that night we met at the opera, was that the first time you'd seen me?
No,
Christine confessed.
I had noticed you before.
Then why did you pretend not to recognize me?
Asked Raoul.
Was it because of the man I heard in your room?
What man?
Asked Christine.
The man who asked you to love him?
Said Raoul. Christine looked shocked.
You were listening at the door?
Yes,
Replied Raoul.
I heard him say, Christine, you must love me.
Raoul paused.
What was it you wanted to tell me? Are you in love with someone else? Is that it?
Christine shook her head.
No, Raoul. Do you remember the angel of music? Do you remember my father saying he would send the angel to me?
Yes, of course I remember.
Raoul replied.
Well, he did. The angel visits me in my dressing room and gives me lessons every day. I've never seen him. I only hear his voice. I thought I was the only person who could hear him. But you heard him too, the other night.
Raoul stared at Christine for a moment, then burst out laughing.
So, you're saying the voice I heard was the angel of music? Oh, Christine, I think someone has been lying to you.
But it's true. If you had opened the door that night, you would have seen that there was no one there.
Christine, there's no such thing as an angel of music.
Said Raoul gently.
You're wrong.
Christine cried. Tears began to roll down her cheeks, and Raoul tried to take her in his arms.
Leave me,
Said the girl as she rushed out of the room. Raoul followed her, but she ran up the stairs and locked herself in her bedroom. That night, Christine did not come down to dinner. When Raoul woke up the next morning, Christine had already left for Paris. Chapter 4. On Saturday morning, Moncharmin and Richard inspected Box 5 and found nothing suspicious about it. They heard no strange voices and saw no ghostly figures. So they decided that Madame Giry was playing a practical joke on them.
Madame Giry thinks that we are fools.
Richard exclaimed.
We will sit in box 5 during the performance tonight and prove to everyone that the opera ghost does not exist. Then we will sell it.
The two men walked back to their office, where they found a letter on the desk. It was addressed to both of them and written in red ink.
Dear sirs, you have been ignoring me, and that makes me angry. There is still a chance for us to live in peace, but you must meet my demands. I will be watching the performance from Box 5 tonight, and you are forbidden to sell it. Christine Daae will play the part of Margarita in Faust tonight. Carlotta will be ill. You must give Madame Giry her job back. If you refuse to do as I ask, I guarantee that something terrible will happen during tonight's performance. O.G.
What nonsense.
Said Richard as he tore up the letter and threw it in the rubbish bin. At about the same time, Carlotta rang for her maid to bring her letters in bed. One of the letters was written in red ink.
If you perform tonight, something awful will happen the moment you start singing. You have been warned.
Carlotta pushed aside her breakfast and read the letter again.
Christine Daae is behind this. She is jealous of me.
She murmured to herself. But in fact it was Carlotta who was jealous of Christine. Carlotta read the letter a third time.
We'll see about that,
She said as she threw it in the fireplace. That night the theatre was full. The only unusual thing that Carlotta noticed was that the two managers were sitting in box 5. 10 minutes into the first act, Richard leaned over and asked Moncharmin,
So, has the ghost whispered in your ear yet?
It is still early.
Moncharmin replied. The first act finished, and both managers turned to look at each other.
The ghost must have decided not to watch the performance tonight,
said Moncharmin with a grin.
That Madame Giry is a liar and a nuisance,
said Richard.
I have decided to replace her with my housekeeper. She's sitting down there.
Richard pointed to a large woman who was sitting in the stalls beneath them.
She should see the play at least once before she starts working here,
he added. At the end of the second act, both managers went to their office. When they returned to Box 5, they saw some English sweets and a pair of opera glasses on one of the chairs. The managers frowned, but they said nothing. The third act began, and Carlotta walked onto the stage. When she opened her mouth to sing, a terrible thing happened. Carlotta croaked like a frog.
Quack! Quack!
The audience gasped, and the managers looked stunned. Carlotta bravely opened her mouth to sing again, but the same thing happened.
Quack!
At that moment, the two managers heard a voice whisper in their ears.
Her singing is going to bring the chandelier down.
The managers looked up at the ceiling, and to their horror, they saw the massive glass chandelier fall and crash onto the stalls below. People started screaming and running for their lives. It was total chaos. In the newspapers the next day, it was reported that the chandelier had killed a woman at the opera. The woman was Richard's housekeeper. After that tragic evening, Carlotta fell ill, and Christine disappeared again. Raoul searched for her in vain. Finally, he decided to visit Madame Valerius at her apartment. Raoul rang the doorbell, and a maid answered.
I'm sorry, monsieur, but Madame Valerius is not well enough to receive guests today,
said the maid.
Please give her my card. She will want to see me,
said Raoul. The maid took the card, and a few minutes later she showed Raoul into Madame Valerius's bedroom.
Raoul,
said the old woman.
It is so good to see you again after all these years.
Hello, madame. It is good to see you too,
said Raoul.
What brings you here today?
Asked Madame Valerius.
I am looking for Christine,
replied Raoul.
Do you know where she is?
She is with her good genius, the angel of music,
said the old woman proudly.
She is?
Exclaimed Raoul.
Yes, but you must not tell a soul,
said the old woman.
I know that Christine is fond of you, Raoul, and that you are fond of her. But Christine cannot marry you.
Why? Is she engaged to someone else?
The old woman laughed.
Heavens, no. It's the angel of music who forbids her to marry.
Raoul frowned.
Madame, where does this genius live?
He lives in heaven, of course,
said the old woman with a smile.
And where is Christine now?
I don't know. She told me she was leaving with her angel.
Thank you, madame. That's all I needed to know,
said Raoul. He left Madame Valerius's apartment and quickly made his way home. He was heartbroken and furious. Christine had deceived him. She had run off with another man. That night Raoul fell asleep in his clothes. The next morning his servant handed him a letter. Raoul instantly recognized Christine's handwriting.
Dear Raoul, go to the masked ball at the Opera House tomorrow night. Meet me in the room near the statue. Wear a white domino costume and a mask. Don't let anyone see your face. Christine.